You know, after more than 4 decades diving into the world of the occult, exploring the shadows, decoding the hidden, I can tell you one thing with certainty. The moment you think you've got it all figured out, you don't. The moment you start believing you've reached the peak of understanding, there's always a higher peak you can't see yet. See, the word occult simply means hidden. It's about what lies beneath the surface, the truths that aren't obvious at first glance. And if there's one lesson I've learned, it's this. When it comes to spiritual or godly matters, you have to start with humility. Without that, you're already lost. Because the truth is, none of us can truly represent the fullness of the divine. We don't know the mind of God. All we can know is that everything we put into the world eventually comes back to us. The universe has laws, unshakable, immutable laws, and they don't care whether we understand them or not. And if we try to twist the truth, play favorites, or look the other way, sooner or later we find out we're running up against divine justice. Now, woven deep into the foundations of nations, hidden in the back rooms of power, there are secret societies. They don't operate in the spotlight, they move quietly, almost invisibly. They're bound together by purposes most people wouldn't dare to even imagine. And what's fascinating is, they communicate through symbols, ancient symbols. A language without words. These aren't just decorative marks, they're codes, keys to something that stretches back through centuries and civilizations. Look closely enough, and you'll see them carved into stone, imprinted on coins, even embedded in the designs of flags. Each one carries a meaning, a story, maybe even a warning. They're hiding in plain sight, and yet they point to something powerful, something transformative. Some believe these symbols are a bridge to an ancient reality, a truth that's been carefully guarded for generations. It's like they're waiting, almost patiently, for the right person at the right moment to truly understand what they mean. And that's where people like Jordan Maxwell come in. Maxwell devoted his life to studying the signs most people overlook. For him, the world as we know it, the things we're told are just the way it is actually a carefully constructed illusion. A web designed to keep humanity in a kind of waking dream. He didn't see hidden forces as vague theories or abstract ideas. No, to him they were part of a very real, very active network working beneath the surface. They influence our institutions, our culture, and even the way we think about reality itself. Maxwell argued that there's been a kind of psychological cage around humanity for thousands of years. A narrative passed down and reinforced by societies and orders that hold deep, cosmic knowledge. Knowledge about the universe, about the human mind, and about spiritual forces that most people never touch. And here's the thing. This knowledge wasn't lost. It wasn't destroyed. It's been kept alive just out of reach, hidden in the shadows, reserved for a select few. Now, Maxwell believed that studying symbols isn't just an academic exercise. It's not about trivia. These symbols, whether they're etched into an ancient temple or stamped on a modern currency note, are like signposts. They can lead us toward ancestral wisdom, the kind of understanding that could actually expand human consciousness. Take the pentacle, the pyramid, the all-seeing eye. He didn't see them as just designs. To him, they were living elements, charged with meaning and energy. In ancient times, they acted like maps, guiding seekers toward deeper truths about existence. And, according to Maxwell, this network of hidden knowledge is still operating today. It hides inside our institutions and ideologies, disguising itself as something ordinary while subtly shaping how we see the world. It's not passive, it's active, always working, always influencing. For him, these weren't just conspiracy theories. They were living realities, and he believed that as long as we accept the version of reality handed to us without question, we're living inside someone else's design. These constructs, as he called them, are invisible walls shaping our perception, keeping us from seeing what's actually possible. And, as you can imagine, his work provoked a lot of different reactions. Some saw him as a pioneer, someone brave enough to ask the questions most people avoid. Others dismissed him outright as a conspiracy theorist. But Maxwell didn't flinch. He believed these symbols, these societies, were custodians of a timeless knowledge that could transform the way we see life itself. Now, here's the real twist. This isn't just about uncovering some dusty old secret. This is about freedom. Maxwell argued that true freedom starts when you can see the world with fresh eyes, when you can break out of the psychological boxes that society has placed around you. And that leads us to a deeper, more personal question. What's actually holding you back from seeing the bigger picture? Most of us have felt, at some point, that there's more to life than what we can see or measure. We've had those moments, fleeting, almost magical, when something feels bigger than logic, like a curtain has been lifted for just a second, and then it's gone. Why does that greater truth feel so far away? Is it that we can't let go of our old beliefs, or maybe, and this is what Maxwell hinted at, maybe we've been programmed not to see it? And here's where it gets interesting. These barriers aren't just in our minds. They're built into the world around us, in our culture, our social systems, even in the way our education shapes us. It's like an invisible framework telling us what's real and what's impossible. On one hand, you've got your own inner roadblocks, fear, doubt, habits that keep you in your comfort zone. On the other hand, you've got the outer structure, a web of norms and influences that quietly steer your thinking. Together, they form a kind of cage, and most people never even realize they're inside it. But here's the good news. Throughout history, there have always been those who found a way out, people who saw past the illusions, who learned to read the signs. They were called initiates, seekers who went through intense preparation to see reality in a completely different way. Now, in the ancient world, breaking through these barriers was hard. You needed access to sacred knowledge, teachers, and places that could help guide your transformation. Today, the barriers look different, but they're still there. And the first step toward breaking them is simply to start asking the questions. Every question you ask cracks the wall a little more. Every doubt you explore opens another door. And once you take that first step, you start to notice things you never saw before. Patterns, connections, symbols that seem to guide you deeper. This isn't a quick journey. It's not about instant results. It's about stepping into a process that changes the way you see everything. And if you stick with it, something remarkable starts to happen. You begin to realize that reality itself might not be what you thought it was. As you start peeling back those layers, you'll find that almost every spiritual or esoteric tradition talks about the same thing. The search for deeper knowledge goes way beyond words. It's not just about reading books or memorizing teachings. It's about walking a quiet, inward path. This path is about shutting out the constant noise of the world so you can hear something far more important. Your own inner voice. And if you dig into ancient texts, you'll find that many of them point toward one mysterious little structure in the human brain, the pineal gland. Some call it the third eye. It's small, tucked away in the center of the brain, and yet for thousands of years it's been linked to higher states of awareness. In the esoteric world, it's seen as a kind of bridge, a doorway between the physical and the spiritual. Ancient sages didn't just talk about it, they built entire practices around awakening it. They believed that by activating the pineal gland, you could see beyond the limits of ordinary perception. Not just imagining things, but literally experiencing visions, profound intuitions, and a deep sense of connection to the universe itself. They used meditation, breath control, and even specific body postures to stimulate this inner eye. But they all agreed on one thing. This process takes dedication and patience, and in our instant gratification world, that's a rare combination. Those who succeeded described a state where time and space seem to dissolve, where you stop feeling separate from the world and start feeling like you are the world, a kind of unshakable unity. It's not just poetic language. For them, it was a direct, lived experience. And that's why awakening the pineal can be such a radical shift. It doesn't just give you new insights. It can completely rewrite the way you understand reality. But here's the challenge. The moment you start pushing toward this kind of awakening, your mind will push back. Old beliefs, habits, fears, they'll all try to hold on. Because in many ways, opening that third eye is like stepping into a whole new reality. One where your old definitions of right and wrong, possible and impossible, suddenly feel too small. Now imagine this. What if you could actually dissolve that sense of separation between yourself and the universe? What if duality, that feeling that there's you over here and everything else over there, simply disappeared? That's the vision of those who walk the silent path in search of unity with the cosmos and their own true essence. Every meditation, every moment of deep introspection is an attempt to touch that potential, to awaken something that's been sleeping inside you for a very, very long time. History is filled with people who dedicated their lives to this. And if we look back, ancient Egypt gives us one of the clearest examples. The Egyptians didn't just see the mind as a thinking machine. They saw it as a direct extension of the cosmos. In their view, it was entirely possible for a person to reach higher states of consciousness and unlock transcendent truths, if they were willing to train for it. This wasn't casual. Their priests and initiates went through rigorous practices. They meditated on sacred symbols, controlled their thoughts and emotions, and used specific rituals to strengthen their link with the universe. Two symbols in particular stand out. The Eye of Horus wasn't just an artistic design. It was a symbol of divine vision, a merging of reason and intuition that allowed the seeker to see beyond the ordinary world. And the Ankh, that cross with a loop at the top, was a sign of eternal life, a reminder of the connection between the physical and spiritual realms. These weren't just abstract ideas. The Egyptians used them as tools, visual keys to unlock higher states of mind. They also placed huge importance on sacred spaces. Take the Step Pyramid of Saqqara. It wasn't just a burial monument, it was a place of transformation. Certain rituals held there were designed to help initiates expand their perception, harmonize with cosmic forces, and step closer to the truth of their own existence. In all of this, there's a pattern. They understood that the mind and the cosmos were woven together, that if you could understand yourself deeply enough, you could also understand the universe. And this isn't just ancient history. These same principles keep showing up over and over across cultures and time. One idea that keeps surfacing is that the universe is made of subtle frequencies and vibrations. Most of us can't perceive them directly, but they shape everything around us. Think about how a song can change your mood in an instant, or how certain sounds can calm your mind. That's not just emotional, it's vibrational. And just like music affects your feelings affect the world around you. Modern science is actually starting to catch up here. Studies show that emotions like gratitude and compassion create more harmonious brainwave patterns, which can improve physical health, boosting immunity, lowering blood pressure, and even supporting heart health. Meditation works in a similar way, raising the frequency of the brain and helping you enter deep states of relaxation and focus. Ancient traditions taught that by raising your vibration through spiritual practice, self-reflection, even moments of silence, you could tune yourself to the frequency of the universe. And when you do that, something shifts. You start to feel connected to everything. The boundaries fade. You begin to see life differently, not as a series of random events, but as a flowing, interconnected pattern. Past, present, and future stop feeling like separate boxes. They blend into a single, continuous moment. In practical terms, this can change the way you make decisions. Instead of acting from fear or scarcity, you begin to see the bigger picture. You understand that each thought, each choice, is part of an ongoing ripple that moves through your life and beyond. Some call this the flow state, that sweet spot where your mind and body are perfectly in sync with what you're doing. But to the ancients, that was just a glimpse of what's possible when you're truly in harmony with the universe's vibration. And here's the big idea. When enough people start to align with this expanded awareness, it doesn't just transform individuals, it transforms entire communities. Values like empathy, unity, and compassion take on a whole new level of meaning. Because in this state, you're not just changing yourself, you're influencing everyone and everything around you. When you start to see reality through this lens, you realize something profound. The world around you isn't a fixed, unchangeable thing. It's not a rigid stage where you play out a pre-written script. Instead, it's an ever-shifting expression of your state of mind, your intentions, and your consciousness. That means the way you think, the way you feel, and the vibration you carry can literally influence what happens in your life. This isn't just poetic thinking. It's a principle woven through ancient wisdom and echoed in modern science. Cultures that studied alchemy believed this deeply. They taught that transforming yourself on the inside would naturally change the matter and circumstances around you. When your mind is in harmony with the universe, you're no longer fighting against reality. You're flowing with it. And when you're flowing with it, you can shape it. In this view, you're not just a passive observer of life. You're a co-creator. And every thought, every emotion, is like a brushstroke on the canvas of reality. Now, here's where the journey gets really interesting. Once you begin to expand your awareness, you realize that the path to truth has no end point. It's not like climbing a mountain where you finally reach the top and say, "That's it, I've seen everything." Instead, it's more like exploring an endless ocean. Every time you discover something, it opens up new questions. Every answer reveals another layer. It's almost as if the universe is inviting you deeper and deeper, saying, "Keep going. There's more." And this is where symbolism and esoteric practice take on a whole new importance. They're not just relics of old cultures. They're keys. They're maps to dimensions of knowledge that go beyond the everyday. They can help you navigate the deeper waters of self-discovery. But this path isn't just about personal growth. It's about transformation on a collective scale. The more you learn about yourself, the more you start to see your connection to everyone else. That shift changes how you interact with the world. You start making choices that create harmony instead of conflict. And when enough people make that shift, entire societies can change. That's why seekers throughout history have taken the journey so seriously. They weren't just chasing enlightenment for their own sake. They understood that by transforming themselves, they were also influencing the world around them. So, what does that mean for you right now? It means you can stop thinking of your life as something that just happens to you. You can start thinking of it as something you actively create. Imagine standing at the edge of a vast horizon. The world you see isn't just out there. It's a reflection of what's inside you. And once you realize that, all those limitations you thought were unshakable, they start to look like illusions. Of course, seeing yourself as a co-creator isn't the same as snapping your fingers and making anything appear. This is a skill, a practice, a relationship you build with the deeper layers of reality. And like any relationship, it requires attention, patience, and consistency. That's why ancient traditions place so much importance on meditation, ritual, and self-reflection. They're tools to align your inner world so it can shape your outer world with more clarity and power. In the next stage of this journey, we'll explore the art of manifestation, not as some magic trick, but as a natural outcome of aligning thought, intention, and action with the frequencies of the universe. We'll look at how focused thought can ripple outward and influence matter, and why both ancient wisdom and modern research are beginning to point in the same direction. Because here's the truth. Everything begins with understanding your role as a co-creator. You can't step into that role fully until you've broken out of the psychological and spiritual constructs that keep you in a smaller version of yourself. That's why meditation isn't just relaxation, it's the gateway. It's how you connect to the intelligence that's been guiding this whole show since before you were born. And if you've ever felt that spark of curiosity, that deep-down sense that there's more to life than you've been told, this is your sign to start exploring. Every step you take toward deeper awareness is a step toward shaping a reality that reflects your highest self. So here's the invitation. Stop living as a spectator. Step into the role of the creator. Question what you've been told is normal. Learn to read the signs. And, most importantly, tune yourself to the higher frequency where the possible and the impossible start to blend. Because once you do, the game changes.